The power of ignorance. It's just another morning. As the sun shined in the bedroom, John slowly opened his eyes. As he blinked away his negative thoughts, he could hear the familiar sounds of car engines and people talking outside. John was afraid to get out of bed, but he knew he had to get up and start his day. As he sat down and placed his feet on the hardwood floor, he took a deep breath as instructed by his meditation teacher. Remember, pay attention to your thoughts and feelings, but do not act on them, he said. John made this his mantra at the start of each day. He walks with his morning routine. He takes a shower, brushes his teeth, and gets dressed. With each passing minute, he could feel his anxiety for the day ahead. John tried to focus on his breathing, but his mind remained silent. What if I'm late for the meeting? What if my boss scolds me again today? What if I get stuck in traffic? John knows his emotions are out of control. He not only looks at them, he hears everyone. His shoulders tensed and his heart pounded. There, he said to himself, see. Don't forget. John breathed slower, held his breath, and let it out completely. After a few sessions of conscious breathing, he began to feel better. John got ready, ate a quick breakfast, walked out the door and towards his car. When he got to the highway, traffic was very heavy. He cried with instinctive distress. John remembered his teacher's advice and checked himself. Look, don't forget, he repeated like a mantra. John focused on his breathing and just sat there, feeling the discomfort of the erratic traffic. He thought of himself as a leaf floating in the current, flowing with the current, flowing with the current. After regaining consciousness a few minutes later, John began to feel his muscles softening. The traffic situation is out of his control, so why suffer twice? The first because of the delay, the second because of its reaction to traffic. His teacher's voice echoed in his head. Traffic is bad or bad. It's just. As he set up his laptop and walked away, his anxiety returned. His palms grew sweaty. What if he blanked out during the meeting? What if his boss cut him off again? The old John would have dwelled on all the possible ways he could fail and worked himself up into a panic. But this new John simply acknowledged the worried thoughts and let them drift away. He was determined not to react, but rather to stay anchored in the present moment. The meeting began, and John stumbled over his opening remarks. His boss chuckled and said to a colleague. John felt his face turn red with embarrassment. The fight or flight response kicks in. He wanted to attack his boss for laughing at him. But John couldn't breathe. He loosened his grip on the podium and continued his speech. No protection is required. It focuses on conveying important messages clearly and effectively. The inner voice returned. Don't judge. Just watch. After the meeting, John went to his desk with new confidence. His boss' sarcastic comments didn't feel like a personal attack. He realized that this was probably due to his own insecurity and ego leading the way. John felt more sympathy for him than anger. That afternoon, while John was doing a lot of work, he would often look up and look at the beautiful bonsai tree on his desk. He learned that careful pruning of branches made the tree stronger. John reminded himself that he, too, was like that bonsai. The challenges he faced helped him grow in wisdom and strength. At the end of a long day, John happily turns off his computer and leaves the office. As he walked home, enjoying the cool evening air, he thought about how less energy could lead to more peace through religious practices. When he got home, John took his mat and notebook. He talked about the many events that happened that day, the traffic, the tense presentation, his boss's speech, and how the delay in front of him made him forget. He thought more than he thought. John wrote about the life lesson he remembered from that day. Don't judge the pain. Pain often comes from our thoughts, not our own experiences. When she fell asleep that night, she thanked him. the small but big changes you make by practicing mindfulness. The next day, John went to work with a new purpose. He tries to activate his consciousness. The more he can train his mind not to forget and be content with the expansion of knowledge, the more joy and wisdom he will experience. John was stuck in traffic again, but managed to get on the road. He arrived early for the next meeting and carefully reviewed the content of the speech. When a colleague made a rude comment, John stopped to consider the feedback rather than get angry. Every day brings a new opportunity to apply the teachings of the faith. By learning to observe rather than follow, John changed not only his life, but also his perspective on life. The competition doesn't end there. Criticism no longer bothers him. He looked at past events without making any judgments. There were times when John thought he heard something about the character. Sometimes he loses consciousness when he is disturbed by the long queues at the store, the stares of the cashiers, or the stress of daily life. However, as time went by, John was able to control himself faster. The distance between stimulus and response gradually widens. With each reluctant decision to answer, John's frustration grew greater. He realized that his inner peace did not depend on anything else. By training his mind like a muscle, he can better control his emotions. John still feels sad, anxious, or frustrated some days, but it doesn't hurt feelings or get stuck in the past. He accepted the ups and downs of life without any further expectations. John found lasting peace by learning not to become too attached to thoughts and feelings. Beyond the personal benefits, John's journey has helped him become a better friend, partner, family member, and colleague. She finds that because she is less distracted, she can listen better, be more empathetic, and meet anyone, no matter where they are. He is like a wise tree, down to earth and encouraging. John realized that the power of not hearing did not mean his thoughts were bad or unsuccessful. In fact, this makes it more responsive. It enables him to stand firm in his own truth without getting angry, to make decisions without fear, and to speak with compassion but courage. The more John practically feels no pain, the less affected he is. The opinions of others may not be equal due to circumstances in life. By remaining calm without the problems around him, he found safety in the midst of the storm. John still has difficult days, but they are becoming manageable rather than difficult. He wakes up every morning with the desire to answer one thing at a time, thanks to the inner strength he has built up. Seeing John's transformation inspired his family and friends to give him time to remember. When someone is giving important feedback, they stay calm and think ahead, rather than getting defensive. When they are stuck in traffic, instead of throwing tantrums, they turn on music and exercise patience. John's devotion did not make an impact on his community. During the discussion, his wisdom will help calm tension without distraction. When his friends express their feelings, his anxiety is felt by them too. His hope in the face of difficulties gives strength to others. As time passed, John realized that the second one had not come. Whenever he encounters a challenge, he instinctively exhales again before reacting. He learned to capture the moment the experience occurred and his reaction to it. By developing this awareness, John was able to control his thoughts and emotions. With a non-fighting, caring attitude, external circumstances have no control over his inner peace. He became the master of his own peace. If John can keep the peace, he will be able to experience the beauty of life. Daily worries did not bother him, but they were interesting. Loneliness comes sometimes, but it also passes like a cloud. He learned to love without attachment. John began to understand what his teacher meant. Things are not good or bad. They just are. Of course, while John still went through tough times, he also had many bright moments. The joy of watching the sunset, the laughter at dinner with friends, the quiet moments in your child's sleep, Every experience is a gift and should not be taken for granted. John's journey to becoming disabled teaches him that peace takes practice, but it can be done. By stopping before this event occurred, he learned to hear the good news through wisdom. As time passed, John's mind became like the calm of a mountain lake. He began to think about the world clearly and silently. Although John still felt all the human emotions, happiness, sadness, anger, fear, they no longer broke him alone. He approaches everything with patience and compassion. John is known for his great consistency throughout life's ups and downs. He realized that by learning not to forget, he gained the clarity and wisdom to be purposeful, live well, and support others. Instead of hoping to resist, he answered clearly. John is no longer on autopilot, but lives life to the fullest, guided by his most important values. John knows that his power is not in controlling external conditions that he cannot change, but in choosing his own behavior for each situation. He is responsible for himself in peace. John changed his entire life by mastering the art of conflict. Why John embodies the philosophy of Buddhism. Peace comes when we do not forget all the waves of knowledge that crash on the shore. She found unwavering peace by learning to surf life's peaks and valleys with grace. The power of the silence created by John is in all of our hands. We just need to remember the gap between support and response. When we stand in this space, we are given the freedom to choose wisdom over thought. We get out of autopilot and go into awareness mode. Imagine how comfortable and free we would feel if we did not follow these important sayings. How much peace can we find if we acknowledge our anxiety but don't let it consume us? Each of us has the potential to create more impact than results. Then you will see your thoughts speed up, stop, and bring yourself to the present moment. Watch the series without prejudice. See if you can widen the distance between the outcome and your response. With practice, the difference in consciousness will gradually expand. When you encounter difficulties, remember to be a wise oak, flexible, down to earth, and efficient. Know that nothing else can disturb your peace of mind without your permission. You regain control not by changing your environment, but by changing your relationship with your environment. If you continue to practice non-resistance when faced with life's big and small problems, you will find the depths of peace that await you. By learning not to forget, when you stop and get into it, you will see that stability is always there. We all have the power to change our lives by exercising our reluctance to act. With time and patience, we can all cultivate John's heart, compassion, and inner strength. When you start feeling angry or afraid today, remember to stop, breathe, pay attention, and let it pass without judgment. Consider what burdens can be reduced and what pain can be avoided if we face all the problems in life. Our world needs more non-reactive heroes like John. By walking the path of compassionate non-reactivity, we can each become the change we wish to see.